Welcome to the Inside Scoop. Today, Patch is sadly not present, but we have a very special guest. That's Oskar Jankowski, a classmate, groupmate of mine. Don't even know how does it go in uni these days?
How does it go in uni?
Yeah, like as in,
It's
not a classmate because we're not in a class.
Oh,
It was so easy in high school.
it was.
It's my classmate, it's my friend, blah, blah.
I just usually say friend from my course, you know.
Ooh, so
A friend from my course, yeah.
like a friend from my flat would be a flatmate, so that was
Yeah.
like...
Oh,
course mate?
Yeah, course mate.
Ah, we got it.
Is it?
But wait, do you study computer science?
Do you study computer science?
No,
instead?
I don't.
Okay, so we're both on applied computing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're a course mates.
But at heart, I'm a computer science student.
Well, pretty sure it's all the same, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Without the maths, so, yeah.
This weird thing, because the only difference I actually noticed was not really having math. And anyhow, that's a bit of a introduction of who the person is, so you can understand how smart the computer guys are. You know, wink wink. He is here to talk about philosophy. It's probably sort of a usual topic. What we sort of cover here is our podcast on Apple Podcast is labeled as, what is it, self-improvement?
You probably slip into
So-
philosophy with anything you talk about eventually.
Yes, so that's what I think our first topic could even be.
That's what to expect from it, really.
Yeah. So my first question then would be: is everything philosophy? Like, could you call any thought that a person has about a something a philosophy?
That's a good question, bro, Jogan. Could you call anything into question and call it philosophy? Is that what you're saying?
So like, could you call any thought of some person a philosophy? Well, probably not a thought that I want food, but more of an opinion that he has
you're
about
thinking,
something.
Yeah. So you're thinking something that they thought about that isn't necessarily based on book knowledge.
Yeah, something that I was just, walking by, like, I don't know, a rock today, and then I looked at the rock and thought, oh,
I'm just like that rock.
yeah, well, possibly, yeah.
Were you going somewhere with that, or?
No, that's the one. That's the one. Like anything, life is like a rock, and they're like, wait, why is it like a rock?
I think it's finding your own perspective on things, your own interpretation. So if you look at that rock, everybody's gonna look at that rock and probably think it's just a rock, but you might be thinking about something at the time, look at that rock and make some sort of philosophy around that.
So do you think that's how philosophies were born? Like someone just sat and saw the same rock. There's a story about these 3 vinegar tasters. Have you heard of it?
No, but please tell it.
How Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism was born. It was these 3 guys around the vial of vinegar, and they tasted it. One of them was Buddha, the other one was Lao Tzu, and the other guy was Confucius.
Yeah, I think you told me this one.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So one of them found the vinegar bitter, the other one found it sour, and the other one was like, oh, it's sweet. So their 3 philosophies are born from the same pot of vinegar.
Yeah.
So like you can sit there and look at the thing and then just like, hey, I think I have a view on it, and my view is different from the other. So now I just create my own philosophy or something.
Yeah. And then like 2 weeks later, you might be looking at the same thing again and come up with a completely new philosophy.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking about something else at the time. Your mind is somewhere else. So that's tying back to what I was saying earlier about your past self being a complete, not a different person. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a different person because you develop all the time. But what's more interesting is that do you trust your past self less? Do you read what you wrote once and be like, that guy is stupid? What's he
Until
saying?
you realize that it's you, and then oh, okay. So
not
I
even
was
that, but knowing it's you, and
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
like, oh my god, I've said some stupid shit.
The thing is, philosophies, what makes them valid? Like, okay, I was a young dude. I wrote, I don't know, a sentence or anything. It was like an example. And it was like writes a sentence, which is like, life is like a rainbow. You can find any colors. And now, I just started to grow up and then realize that, life is probably more linear than you would think. And just like, no, life is gray. And then I look at my own past thoughts. So which philosophy is the valid one? Or do we just develop all the time?
I think you have to have some sort of measure for validity, because everybody's opinion of validity could be different as well. I think you could say a good one is realism. You could say if somebody is more realistic, you could say their philosophies are going to be more valid. You could say that because they apply to life better. If you could base it on that, think about what you can apply to life. Because I mean, for me, philosophy started from having too much time to think. Really, not enough things to do. First year, really easy assignments. I was still at home with my parents, so I just took a bus to university, came back home, and that was me in my room thinking. I don't know where I was going with this, but
you weren't blocking your voices with something, and you know how, I don't know, we just these days, like, we're covered in distractions, we're covered with noise around us. It's so easy to just fall into that trap and just pick up your phone. And last week's episode, if anyone remembers, was the no YouTube weekends thing. So I sort of did it because I was busy with a hackathon and I forgot to have time for YouTube or something. So that's my problem. Once I have some spare time, some free time, I just sort of like default to grabbing my phone, turning on YouTube and watching some weird stuff on there, like anything.
Oh yeah.
Well, from Bro Jogan, till, man, even I started sharing these things with friends yesterday.
What, memes?
No videos. There's a dude who makes like robotic spy monkeys, and he deploys them with like other like real monkeys.
Okay.
And it's so weird to watch that. There was one moment where that monkey, I don't know how they do that. They just basically make a robotic monkey. It cannot move much. The only things that it can do is to look convincing is the facial expressions. So it has like
I think I saw that one.
Yeah, a camera installed in one of her eyes.
Was it that when we fell over?
Oh yeah, and then they thought they were grieving because they thought it was dead.
I didn't see that part, but
oh man, they literally took the monkey, they put it down, everyone stood, like all the monkeys stood around it just like crying, and then at the end you see how like a mother monkey takes a little baby monkey, hugs it and just walks away. And it's like, whoa, dude.
It's pretty sad.
It's like, it is.
Like, you put that robot monkey there and you just make them grieve over a robot monkey.
I know, but that's the thing. And I've started to think about like how monkeys are very close to us, but is it moral to do stuff like this? It's like monkeys probably have a different philosophy, or maybe they don't. Do you think they have a philosophy?
So I think that we think we're like special.
Oh yeah, right.
That we're very intelligent and we have philosophies, and then we look at other animals and we say that they don't think about that kinds of stuff. But we can't know for sure. But what we do know is that yes, their mind is preoccupied with survival. But then if you think about cats, right, that live at home, like they don't really have to think about survival. Do you think at some point they start creating their own philosophies because it's to do with having too much time at some point, right?
Yeah, that's
cats with philosophies. I think that's
interesting.
Name for something. Just came up
cats with philosophy, such a good name. My grandmother had a cat who would always go and if there's this sponge which is used to clean dishes, if it's in a different spot in the kitchen, not like on the where it's supposed to be, she just like throws it down. It's like it has an OCD sort of. I know that this has to be here. If it's not there, it just throws it on the ground.
The cat.
And the cat, yeah.
Okay, I thought it was
so it probably has a philosophy which is like, I don't know if it's a philosophy, but
I think that's probably well, I can't say, but I feel like that's probably like, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not a psychologist.
Yeah. But what if like you had a major in like cat psychology? Is there one? Pretty sure there
I know
should
there's definitely people who study the behavior of cats. So yeah.
The cat guys. Man,
that's interesting.
The thinking about the way how like herds of animals work, that's like coming back to the philosophy of animals. I was mesmerized by watching sheep.
Yep. And
that's when I sat down and thought, dude, this is probably the materials they study at the big corporations and stuff.
Sheep.
Yeah, just I've tried looking for all the videos I could find on sheep on YouTube and just watch how all of them like move and follow each other and all move in such a unison. It was like weird,
mesmerizing.
Yeah,
yeah.
Isn't it like you watch and like how birds fly?
That's interesting.
They're all together and just the same, just follow.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, whoa, like that was trippy as hell. And then I watched how wolves hunt a rabbit.
Yeah.
And how they have to split up and sort of collaboratively surround him, but because the rabbit's so fast and they have to like sort of, I don't know how they communicate. That's the thing. They must have a certain philosophy. Probably not a philosophy, but
where do you draw the line? That's the thing you started with. What can you call everything a philosophy, right?
Yeah,
because it's just however we define it, then, isn't it?
Possibly, because have you heard a question? Oh, so what's your philosophy on this or something? People, someone say like, "What's your philosophy?" Like they make this word sort of mainstream, more or less. But it also makes sense because a philosophy. What is a philosophy? That's a good question.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be looking it up.
I feel like
just to see
once you start thinking about any particular subject to a large extent, you could say you're tending towards a philosophical or creating a philosophy of that subject. So it's more of I feel like everything, the more I think about it, exists on a spectrum, and that's a way to
even
look
Google.
at it.
So even Google, it defines it as a noun. So we'll get back to the first meaning of this noun later, but the second one is just a theory or attitude that acts as a guiding principle for behavior. So if the wolves have a tendency to surround the rabbit, that is probably a philosophy because it acts as a guiding principle for behavior. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Probably don't. No, that's the thing. Everyone thinks like, we're the kind of guys who can think. Like we're people, we're humans. We can think. No one else can think and stuff. Well, probably don't really have animals in nature who just decide to kill themselves. Commit suicide because of they're too sad.
Yeah, I suppose. Do they have the means to? Like cats can jump with pretty high heights and still survive. I know a cat that jumped from third floor and survived, or didn't jump. I guess it fell, but
I don't know. But
maybe it jumped. Maybe
they can drown themselves. Wouldn't you think like a cat could just go into the water, poke their head there, and just die?
That'd be
but they
hard.
Don't do that,
But you get that point where you're like, oh, this is too much pain. Actually, I prefer living. You're like
the emotional pain. Oh my god!
It's probably one of the hardest ways to
I broke my nail. And just puts her head down and drowns.
I don't know,
dude. And alright, so
think about cats do have it pretty good. I think you start
Yeah, alright, cats are pretty good.
Have it pretty good. Like how as humans we feed them. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have it terrible. So,
like those stray cats and
that, and abusive owners and.
But, man, philosophy. Jeez, who are we to talk about it? But then at the same time,
anybody.
Isn't it just anybody can talk about it? But right. So the first definition: the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. So basically, just the study of nature of knowledge, reality, and existence. So it's just anything. If you think about something deeper than what am I going to have for breakfast today, it's probably already a philosophy, or at least
that's a good point. Yeah. I think it exists on the spectrum, but it's a good point. What am I going to have for breakfast, like down here? And then what's the meaning of life in the opposite end?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's like the meaning of life. And it is, drumroll, 42.
Wow, that was quick.
Yeah, because for that supercomputer, it took 7.5 billion years. Do you know about it?
No, tell me about it.
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, did you read that?
Yeah, no. I wish I had, but I know the main point is that, the main plot or whatever is that a supercomputer was calculating something for 7.5 billion years. Or million or billion. Don't quote me.
Yeah.
But he spit out an answer saying 42.
Okay.
And everyone's like, wait, so what was the question? And then they started speculating, probably it's the meaning of life. Okay, it's 42, I guess.
Is that like a sketch or something? Or is that from the book?
It is the book. It's the plot of the book. It's that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and everything, or whatever, the
I don't know, man. I'm trying to get into reading, so maybe it'll be on the list.
1978.
Well, that sounds right.
Later adopted and stuff. Yeah, it's basically there's this thing in the book somewhere that it's just like a story thing where there's a computer who's been calculating stuff for like the past loads of time, and this spits out 42, and everyone's like, oh, so what's the question? Probably figured out it must have been the answer to life and everything, you know, the universe, and that's
42.
42.
That's a pretty good shot at it. Yeah,
it's not bad.
Yeah.
I even made a video about it.
It's pretty close.
You think it should have been like 40? Why is it an integer?
Exactly.
Should be a decimal.
Thinking, yeah.
Oh, why is it a number, actually? Oh, yeah, because it's been calculating. And probably if the computer was created like billions of years ago, then probably it was...
That's its own language. Yeah.
It's probably way too complicated for people to understand, man. Jeez. But what makes... Okay, so philosophies. What makes one better than the other? Let's say...
And as in philosophies, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, we're thinking that if everything is a philosophy, then what makes, let's say, your philosophy or my philosophy better than someone else's?
Well, ultimately, the world doesn't care what is better and what is worse. We do. But I think it's what we define as society, what is better and what is worse. And I think whatever works is what we adapt.
Yeah. Yeah, because people weirdly, like, you know, believe in I don't know how many philosophies, Stoicism or something, and just because someone sometime in the future, you know, created something and decided that this is that's a philosophy, that's it, guys, follow it. And then people started, I guess, researching and looking at it and said, oh, that's cool, I'm gonna follow it, that's a valid point. And then someone else who says devices should be repairable, they get discarded because, hey, that's a wrong philosophy.
Right.
Because, like,
for Apple,
do you know what I'm saying? It's like these are completely different ends of the spectrum. It's like how you should approach life and you know, and everything, and then on the other is just like, well, my philosophy is a consumer should have,
I suppose,
a repairable device. And then if that's also a philosophy, because other people could be, you know, against this philosophy, saying no.
You caught me off guard, to be honest, because I never like thought about what other people think when you say philosophy that much. I thought about maybe that you get philosophies of things, of subjects, and then you get like what I would call pure philosophy, where you speak, you know,
that academic philosophy, sort of.
That kind of thing, when you think about existence and the thinking itself, I guess. But that then ties into cognition. So philosophy exists as one of the 6 fields, if you go on Wikipedia, of interdisciplinary field of cognitive sciences. So I guess
design philosophy. Yeah, I was just looking up what design philosophy is.
I don't know. It's a hard question.
Because you know that when you start thinking about it, there's so many places where you can see this word. Like Apple's design philosophy or something. Whoa, design philosophy, isn't it just like a rule set, or like a set of rules on how they design stuff? It's also called a philosophy.
Somebody probably has a good answer for this.
100%. But
it's probably written down somewhere as a hard definition. And so we need definitions so we can actually communicate meaningfully. That we're not just making our own interpretations of anything, but we can't do that, right? That's just by default. Yeah. We survive because we can agree on things, and we can thrive and gather knowledge, and
we can't just be walking encyclopedias or Wikipedias or something. Yeah. That's why the insight scoop is this little thing where we just sit here and scoop the insights, you know. I really don't like this term. Yeah, I talk to other people like scooping insights.
Insights.
No, not insights, bro.
Insights.
Oh, honestly, actually, our first episode was, what is it, like October 26th or something. We have our first episode up on Spotify, and on November 27th there was a company registered in the UK called the Insight Scoop. It's like, why would you call a company like that? I do understand a podcast, but what would your company have to do?
I guess it's a good name.
It's a good name.
Yeah, somebody thought about that. I was like, that's good.
And then
probably a lot of people thought about it.
No, but the thing is...
And they're like, I want to register a company called that. And they're like, oh no, this guy already has a company.
Yeah, but like I think I was researching a bit. You know, whenever you're creating well, it's also I guess design philosophy because you want to have a brand designed which doesn't match other people's brands. It's also a philosophy of like marketing or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you get philosophies of just different subjects, and it's the way of it's thinking about the subject. Yeah.
So it's the same here. I was looking for. There's like a bunch of radio show titles or podcast titles. Imagine this was called Conversation Street.
Cuts with Thoughts.
Cuts with Thoughts. No.
Conversation Street. That's the thing, right? You know that? No, it's from
Top Gear.
Not Top Gear, the new one. Grand
the Grand Tour. Yeah, I know.
There you go, Conversation Street there. Yeah.
Let's take a left on. I know. But I put it down. Then it was like the Opinion Square, the Opinion Corner, blah blah blah. The Square Table podcast. I don't know where this comes from. The Unpopular Opinion and Against the Current. There was a couple of, but then there are bands. There are like different radio shows. There. Just shows in general, because the Unpopular Opinion sounds cool, and it's like, oh my god, this is some.
Yeah, it's a thing on BBC now as well.
Really?
They do a segment on Unpopular Opinion.
Oof.
Yeah.
They've
better, got a tune for it.
Tune.
Yeah, I'm not. Gonna
I think we need a jingle. Should I create a jingle for this podcast?
Yes. Create like a segment where you like do something.
Well, how would you imagine it?
How would I imagine a jingle?
Yeah.
I can't imagine a jingle.
Should it
I'm
be
not
like
a very musical person?
Drums and just like Aristotle's cut, or like Aristotle said, and then
Yeah. That's actually really good. That's actually.
we were discussing before the podcast about how Aristotle's is probably one of the best guys to quote.
Probably,
because he usually just has like loads of.
We've all heard of Aristotle
at
or
least.
Plato. Socrates, I think even more. No, or was it?
I would think Aristotle's would be like the
probably
ultimate guy. At least that's okay. That's my opinion, because everyone else has a different philosophy towards life, towards learning, and towards whatever they remember and know. So, man,
make like a little questionnaire, see who people know the most, and just call it that.
Aristotle's,
or what people usually say before they say something to make their argument legitimate.
Dude, that's a good concept. You imagine this is supposed to be a conspiracy theories podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't come with any.
Well, see, not necessarily. It's like I had one of a topic idea where this podcast should be a bit different than everybody else's, but like what other people have as podcasts. I'm like, yeah, it's just probably one of the bunch, but the thing is, it's us, it's our insights, our opinions, so that's what makes it unique. And
I've told everybody that I'm coming on this podcast, and we just they always ask her like, so what's it about? And I'm like, it's just a chat thing. Yeah, it's just.
nay! It's not just a chat thing, bro.
Not just a chat.
Yeah. I think I have a mission of this thing somewhere, because as much as it's a chat, it is actually just a chat thing. But my apologies, Corona.
Because you have different people on here, and you just speak about whatever.
Yeah, but it always ties back into self-improvement. And the Inside Scoop is an independent podcast, full stop, sharing insights and opinions, however, always staying open-minded and open for discussion. We aim to better ourselves and hopefully inspire some people to do the same. Learning and discussing new things is the key ingredient that makes blah blah. So
maybe we strayed from that a little bit. Because I was actually I have to think about self-improvement and how I can, So recently I was thinking about how I can, what I've learned a while ago is, instead of constantly trying to make sure you do something, make it a habit so you don't think about doing it. So you just do it as a thing. So for example, I have a hard time balancing, like for example, listening to music, and at which point do I stop so that I can focus and work. So before I go into the library, for example, right before I walk in, I'll take off my headphones, as a rule. Basically, sometimes I forget about it. I'll walk in and I'll be like halfway through the library.
It's like a genuine forget on not.
Yeah, but I'm just testing that out, see if. Yeah.
Do you feel like silence helps you work a bit better?
I feel I'm more focused when if I need some kind of music, I guess, I don't know, sometimes I'll start listening to some lo-fi hip hop and I won't even listen to it, but it'll help me, I guess, focus for the start. I don't know. It's a difficult one.
There's another big philosophy, the music philosophy.
Because I feel like if I listen to some music where there's like lyrics, or I've heard the songs many times before and I know the lyrics, I'm gonna be thinking about it. I'm gonna be trying like singing along in my head. If it's just some random music I've never heard before.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, man.
Yeah.
The lo-fi music is a philosophy as of itself.
Okay.
I watched some small documentaries about that, on how the music is actually perfect for what it is, because it avoids the harsh high sounds. It has like a calm rhythm, sort of. It doesn't have lyrics. It always sort of repetitive, but it's just a little twist. So that's also a philosophy, of how to fit different purposes, I guess.
See, I'll tell you when I figure it out what makes me focused. It's tough. It changes over time, I think. But generally, when I'm in deep focus, I'm not listening to any music, and I'm having like real deep focus. I suppose I ignore the music maybe when I'm having really deep focus. That's also true. But then it's easier for the music if it's not lo-fi hip hop. Something comes up, some beat just throws me off, and I start thinking about the music maybe.
Ooh. So
instead of what I was thinking about. Maybe you should
start using like earplugs, which like earplugs.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to block, let's say, noises around yourself with music. Just completely block them. Like take some earplugs and
No, it's generally not for blocking the things around me. No, the headphones are good for that, but try to find a quiet place. Silent study is good.
Yeah, and we do have the silent study, but I usually just always listen to music anyway.
Sometimes it's too much. Sometimes if I'd go to silent study to focus better because there's no distractions around me. It's just got this little booth in front of me and nothing in my peripheral vision. But I feel like sometimes I'm just not in the mood to focus that much. So I'll go to a different area, so like quiet study instead of silent study. I would be like, it depends on the type of work as well. If it's something that I'm really interested in, that I have to really focus to learn. Generally, if it's something that I don't understand, it's more interesting to learn. Then anything works really. But silent study is great for that. But if it's just repetitive work, coding becomes a bit of repetitive work after a while.
Does it?
Yeah. Unless you're learning some new framework or whatever, that's not fun.
Yeah, I've just had to learn React. Still don't know it well enough, but.
You have to work on some assignment you don't really want to work on. That quiet study is good.
Yeah. And the silent is just basically you put yourself in a fish tank or something.
Yeah.
That little booth which just like hides everyone.
Yeah.
Damn.
And then you just like don't feel great because you're not focusing entirely on whatever you're supposed to be focusing on, but there isn't anything else to focus on. Because there's some things that you don't need full. It's better to not be so focused because you can go for longer periods of time without this full focus. Especially if it's something you don't find so interesting. Yeah.
What about studying philosophy? Do you
study philosophy?
Do you find like easy? Well, even books, yeah.
Yeah, books.
I don't think I find. I think it's easy for me to. Okay, not easy. It's hard for me to focus on things that I know deep in my heart. I know they're gonna improve me, but I don't know. Why is it so hard?
I've been trying to find a more more practical use for philosophy, because it started off as I think it started off as originally where it was really became philosophy is thinking who are the good people, like who is good, what is it, does it matter what we do, is it good or is it bad, does that even matter, does it have is it good or is it just that I think it's good, is it the way people are treating me good? So it went into determinism, so like you can't really blame people. Determinism is a big thing. It's not exactly this, but you can't really. Originally, it was like you can't really blame anybody for anything because whatever they do is like because of the way they were raised or because of their environment growing up. That was like where it all started, and then after that, it just kind of snowballed and it became like meaning of life. Why do I do what I do and stuff like that. And eventually, it was like I need to kind of start thinking of a more practical use for all of this. So it was like looking into cognition using philosophy, and that's where it ties in. It's actually philosophy is one of the 6. There's a lot of things probably, but the main 6 that people have identified or that came together to create cognitive sciences as a field or define it. So
is it all about the brain, like cognition?
Yeah, so originally it was thinking for me about introspection. It was introspection of how I think, and it wasn't just how I think about it was really about how I think interacting with everyday objects, maybe even, right? Why do I pick up my cup this way or a different way? It's like small things like that, just trying to find a practical use for all the thinking that I do. And I don't know what it ended up being.
Practical.
There was like 3 steps that I identified to this to my development in philosophy, but I can't remember. It was 3 steps. That was like 2 steps. It was originally just trying to find define good and bad. Which, you could say there is no answer to, or you could say there's no answer to meaning of life. You could say there isn't good or bad. Things are just are.
Do you not just want sometimes to not think about stuff?
Yeah, that was a thing at some point as well. As for a while, actually, I had to cut down on thinking. I was like, I'm thinking too much. I need to actually start being practical and actually think about my future. Be like, instead of doing all this thinking, maybe I can do something that will help me in the future. And maybe the thinking does to an extent, but do it too much, like too much of a good thing, or there's diminishing returns. Yeah.
Like don't know what was it about President Barack Obama, but is it the clothes or something that you just me too, also just wear black because I don't want to spend like you don't want to spend that 5 minutes or whatever of your morning trying to find what clothes you're gonna wear, or I don't know, prepare breakfast or something. Probably we should like prepare them in advance. Or
so you could do that. I think we were speaking about this before, and it was like, at which point do we become robots, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So what is the purpose and the point of it,
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if your purpose and your point is, I don't know,
if you have something that you want to achieve, then it's great. Do all these things that are going to help you.
It literally allows you to free up some of that cognitive power.
Yeah.
The cerebral capacity or whatever,
So for me, it used to be doing less socializing, right? So I can do more introspection or whatever. Coming into university, I was like a B student in high school. Came in here, I wanted to like redeem myself. I was like, okay, I could easily like go out to all these parties and stuff, but I'm going to focus on my education or whatever. So that was like freeing up some space, I suppose. But I just remembered the third thing of the 3 things that I was speaking about. So from the previous ones that I already spoke about. So the first one was just in general, I was getting into philosophy. The second one was already thinking about, feeling the pressure of eventually I'll have to get a job. How can I use this philosophy to kind of practically, can I do something with this, all this thinking? And then I guess thirdly, and it's probably going to continue and it's going to develop again, it's, I'm doing all this thinking. Maybe I need to start doing more reading again, right? Introduce some new things into the brain to bounce around in here. So like the macros thing in food, like you've got your protein and the thing, so you've got like a percentage balance of the 3 of the macros or whatever. Like for me, I think there was 3 things that I identified, but 2 is like turn the dial on how much time I spent learning new information, taking in new information, and how much I spend reflecting on that. Because if you spend too much time on either one of those, it's not very productive. If you just keep reading things and I never take the time to step back and think about it, I guess you do it in your dreams a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I think maybe when I overload myself with information, like constantly be plugged in, as I've said, like the no YouTube weekends, something like that, where you just, whenever you have some free time, you don't want to be with yourself or your thoughts, you just turn something on.
Yeah.
And probably the information that keeps coming, flowing. But it's also beneficial because, from time to time you catch something.
Yeah. And it gives you some new ideas. Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't really give you time to reflect and think about it, I guess.
So I guess it's about finding that balance. See, because I used to not want to take a lot of information in or read books, because I've developed this kind of thing of not having a trust for like a lot of sources, just because of a lot of things that people have said to me that turned out not to be true in the future when I thought about it. But I'm coming back to around now that I felt that for the past years I've been maybe a little bit ignorant and not reading books, thinking I know it all and stuff, right? And introducing this new information in and seeing how, and actually properly thinking about it when I read it, instead of just reading it, seeing how it fits into what I already know. seeing, trying to get the gist, what I was speaking about earlier, getting the gist of what you're reading, because the medium is so limited of words of written on paper that people, you know, have their own interpretation, obviously, of things that they read. But I was like, I started thinking about that really when we're doing Agile module. Like, people don't really like it, but the person who wrote it probably thought it was the greatest, like came up with it, probably thought it was the greatest thing in the world, and he probably got the gist of it, and he could probably apply it, right? So I don't know, I brought Agile into this, so it's really not.
Yeah, but it's like Agile, isn't it a philosophy?
It's a methodology, right? So yeah, a philosophy.
It's sort of still a philosophy, yeah.
I guess I just trying to explain, because we know what Agile is, but yeah, it's a methodology for like software, you know,
engineering. Yes,
yeah, software engineering.
It's like to have the agility and the flexibility of a small company to be able to produce it fast. But it is a model. Yeah. It's a methodology. So but it's also philosophy. You know?
If the guy was to just write down a short bullet point list of what it means, you know, a person to read it could have a lot of their own interpretation of the bullet points. But I think the more text you have, the probably more they can get across what they really meant, maybe. Yeah, but it's that,
the different interpretations. Do you think we should continue this episode next time about? For
definitely.
So next time we're going to talk about interpretations and different things.
Okay, I'll have something to think about for the next. Yeah,
for sure, man. Thank you for listening to the Inside Scoop, and see you next time again with Oskar.
Bye bye.